Well, hello, mamas. Jessica Coulter here. Let's talk about surviving that latest report card. Let's talk about part 3, all about tests. Okay, we've talked about goals. We've talked about goals and missing assignments. There we go. So if you've missed those other videos, be sure to catch them on my Facebook business page for Ace Cookie Tutoring or on the Ace Cookie Tutoring YouTube channel. So before we jump into what you need to know about upcoming tests for your teen, your tween, maybe your college student, I want to know, is there a test that you know about that your teen has this week? It's Sunday, which means hopefully your teen, and I know you definitely are, thinking about school and what all is upcoming, especially with Thanksgiving so close, especially with the end of the semester, finals, winter break, all of that looming. So let me know down below if your teen has a test this week, if you're, getting a little worried. Okay. And before we talk about this, before we give you some strategies, do know I have an awesome Facebook group. We'd love to have you in that group. There's a link in the description for you to join us after the video. All right. So your teen got that report card, that progress report, whatever you might call it. And I'm not sure what the current word is, mamas, if you want to clue me in. But, you got it. It's not the greatest. Okay. That's what we're talking about. We want to figure out how to survive, how to make it better. Well, got to tell you that we talked about motivation with the goals. We talked about those assignments, how to pick and choose which ones are actually still doable, still turnable, which ones the teens can actually do that your teens teacher will actually accept. But the next part of this is tests. Okay, I've worked with a lot of students where tests are a huge part of the grade. Like I have a student right now, and homework's only like 5% of her grade, and tests are at least 70%, if not 80% of her final grade. And if your teen is not doing well on those tests, he's not trying, let alone studying, let alone actually succeeding on those tests, and it's something like my current student, 80% potentially of her final grade, there is no way your teen is going to pass that class, let alone get a good grade, whatever good might mean to you, to your teen, if that means an A, B, C, whatever. Just know tests are so, so, so important to your teen's success when it comes to grades, let alone your teen's actual learning, okay? Because different teachers test different ways, different grade levels have different types of questions, let alone, what state you live in, what country you live in. Those all come into play with test taking, okay? Multiple choice question is generally a lot easier to answer than a multiple answer question, let alone, an essay question versus, something on the computer. I mean, it comes down to what is your teen experiencing in all classes or certain classes, and is your teen actually ready? So I encourage you today, mamas, that test taking has to start with what are the tests your teen is taking, okay? If your teen's report card didn't go very well, that latest progress report has you scratching your head and going, oh goodness, what happened? Why is my teen doing this? Or, what did I do wrong? Why is my teen not trying? What's missing here? Well, once we get the homework figured out, once we get some of that material learned that obviously your teen's struggling with, or maybe didn't even care to learn in the first place, because those are two very different issues, do know that the next part is test taking, okay? If your teen has weekly quizzes, well, that's the perfect opportunity for your teen to get his feet wet, to really start using some new strategies, to start actually studying for those quizzes, instead of those big scary unit tests, instead of those big scary finals that are generally cumulative over the whole semester. Okay, so have a couple more thoughts here for you, some action steps I want you to take today. I want your teen to start implementing this week. Okay, before I do, my name is Jessica Coulter. I'm the CEO and founder of Ace Cookie Tutoring. I share all sorts of awesome tips, tricks, strategies about studying, about learning for teens here on YouTube and on Facebook. So make sure you subscribe, make sure you follow to the Ace Cookie Tutoring channel and webpage so you don't miss any more videos all about learning and school. Okay? So those action steps. Number one, figuring out when is the next test. Okay, like literally, what test is your teen potentially have this week, potentially as soon as tomorrow. Okay, I mean, tomorrow's Monday, not at all uncommon for tests to be on Monday. And as I explained in earlier videos, the last couple days, pick one class. One class if your teen is just struggling with everything right now. Okay, so when is that next test? Once you know what that test is, once your teen knows what it is, then we have to figure out, okay, what's this test going to be about? What chapters, what units, what, worksheets, homework problems, whatever it is, what's that test about? Okay. After we know when the test is, what it's about, well, then we have to figure out what's the test like. At this point in the semester, your teen should hopefully know I'll have essay questions. I'll have multiple answer questions. I'll be, taking the computer test. I'll be taking the paper test. Your teen needs to know some of these things by now. If your teen still doesn't know how his math teacher tests him, or he doesn't know what to expect on a social studies test, we have bigger issues than when is the next test. We need to know what that test is going to look like. Okay. And finally, your teen actually has to do some studying. Your teen actually has to start preparing for that test and understanding the material as to how to go about that. That really comes down to your teen's learning style, comes down to your teen's preferences, comes down to the teacher's expectations. Okay. So definitely, if your teen does not know how to study, that could be the whole reason that homework, that report card doesn't look like you wanted to, doesn't look like you expected to, doesn't look like what your teen wanted to have happen either. Okay. So definitely do know that tests are an important part to your teen's grades. They show that your teen has learned the material, but there are so many steps to your teen actually having a successful test. So definitely follow what we talked about here. Make sure we know when those tests are, what's going to be on it, let alone what the test format is. And from there, actually start learning the material. So mamas, thank you so much for watching. Be sure to join my Facebook group if you haven't already to get my number one tip for stress-free finals week, because we are getting to that point of the semester where finals are here very, very soon. So use this opportunity. Have your teen take these next quizzes, these next unit tests, these next chapter tests very seriously, because they're going to be so much easier than finals. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good night. I'll see you in my Facebook group soon so you can find that number one tip about a stress-free finals week. Bye. See you tomorrow for information about extra credit.